Hey everybody, what's up and welcome to episode 57 of Into the Necrosphere. This is the final installment of my brutal, badass, and epic countdown of my top 50 favorite death metal bands. And who better to mark such a momentous occasion than my good buddy and friend Jeremy Wagner. He's going to be joining me on the Zoom machine very shortly. Jeremy, of course, is the founder and guitarist of Broken Hope, as well as the author of two very, very cool award-winning novels, The Armageddon Chord and Rabbit Heart. And he was on hand to talk about my top 10. And if you thought the last couple of episodes were hard as shit, you ain't seen nothing yet. Before we get to that, however, a quick heads up on next week's guest. I'm going to be talking to Nick Sagias of Tribe of Pazuzu. They feature the musical stylings of one Flo Monnier of Cryptopsy. Really cool blackened death metal, and if you haven't done so already, then check out an EP that they brought out earlier in the year called The King of All Demons. This is the title track off of that coming your way, just in case you're too lazy to look it up yourself. This is Tribe of Pazuzu with King of All Demons. King of All Demons off the EP of the same name by Tribe of Pazuzu. And as I said, I'll be talking next week to Nick Sagias of the band. You can check them out on Bandcamp in the meantime, and I'll post a link to their Bandcamp in the description of this podcast. So check it out and make sure you tune in next week. Also, if you don't follow the show yet on social media, you can do so. Check me out on Twitter at iNecrosphere, and on Instagram and Facebook, I'm at Into the Necrosphere, shockingly enough. You can also buy yourself some Into the Necrosphere merch on Teespring. There's hoodies, face masks, all sorts of cool stuff on there. So check that out. And if you're in a band and you're unsigned and you've just dropped the demo of a lifetime, then reach out to me via the email on intothenecrosphere@gmail.com. And if I like what I hear, I will feature it on the show. And if I really like what I hear, I will invite you to be a guest on the show. So if you want to come on Zoom and talk shit for an hour, then definitely do so. And I definitely want to have more kind of underground unsigned bands featured as guests next year. I already have Evan from Quell lined up for early next year. And yeah, I mean, that's kind of the point of the show, is to introduce people to new music, along with, giving me an outlet to vent for hours on end. But like I said, if you're in a band and you want me to hear your stuff, then definitely reach out, and I will be more than happy to feature it if it meets certain quality criteria. On that note, it is time now to join my buddy Jeremy Wagner for the final thrilling installment of my top 50 favorite death metal countdown, coming your way right after this. But yeah, welcome back, man. I think it's been just over a year, because last year we did the Halloween special, and I think originally I'd earmarked it to be exactly a year to the day. But when the house move and stuff happened, that obviously got threw things up in the air. But we were just talking offline a second ago, and you mentioned that you've been pretty busy. I know you and I have kind of gone back and forth on the scheduling. What's been going on? Is it music related, book related? What have you been up to?
All kinds of stuff. I started a media company. I'll start there. I started a media company in 2019. It didn't, with the vision to do stuff in film and TV.
Yeah.
And maybe even dabble in publishing and music releasing stuff. And then after the first of the year, I decided, I'm really going to focus more on the film and TV project ideas I had. Basically, I wanted to create and develop projects and write them. I write full time. So nothing happened, though. I wasn't really, I had all these ideas. I had a company. I got the name registered and everything. And then it wasn't until a friend of mine, who's actually a filmmaker, named Frankie Nassau. He's a filmmaker in New York. He's out of New York, and he's done some award-winning documentaries. He did one on Harry Belafonte that HBO bought. He won a Cannes Film Festival award for that. He's done a bunch of other films. He's done a lot of music videos too. I think he's done like the last 5 or 6 or maybe more Steel Panther videos.
Cool.
And he approached me about working with him to do film and TV stuff. And I'm like, wow, this is pretty crazy, because I have a company that I started last year. I want to do just that. So we partnered up. We kept my company name. And basically, it's real easy. I just write and create different film projects, and he works with me on hammering some stuff out, and then with who he has in his corner, they shop his stuff,
Yeah.
Netflix, Hulu, Amazon, HBO, whatever. So right now, since we partnered up early in the year, we've got one project that's definitely in development as far as a sizzle reel that'll soon be shot. I created another TV type of series, which sort of like True Detective meets Breaking Bad.
Yeah.
If you know anything about me by now, Jackie, I write really dark, fucked
I
up.
was just about to say, so I'm going to assuming these are all romantic comedies or
Yeah.
yeah.
Period that,
romance.
Yeah. Like the first thing we have is actually a reality-based program. That's a little different, but it's I got this other thing I created, so I'm working on that, and then once we started, getting our tires going and making traction with projects, we've been approached by different celebrities and some famous, some infamous, that wanted to, do
As long as it's not
deals and stuff. Hey, why don't
Weinstein, mate.
Yeah.
Reaching out to you from prison. Hey, Jeremy.
Jackie, he did.
Really?
Yeah, he did.
Jesus.
I wasn't going to drop his name when I said infamous.
Yeah.
He approached us through our company lawyer.
Yeah.
And basically he wanted a shitload of money up front to do Harvey Weinstein story. We don't have that kind of capital, for one, to give Harvey Weinstein millions of dollars. And then two, my partner and I just thought, even if we did, given the state of trials that he has coming up, and what he's done is all true. We don't want that to bite us in the ass.
I was just about to say, like, you get tarred with that brush now.
Yeah.
And that is a fucking poison pill to swallow. Yeah.
But it's so funny you mentioned that, because I would never said anything, but you said his fucking name. And he but that my partner's Frankie said, he goes, it's kind of crazy. It says something about our company that there's some kind of buzz that these guys are making these shows and stuff. So like right now, my new other project, I'll just show you this. This is we got the rights to book on the Allman Brothers. And,
awesome! I know you're a massive fan of theirs as well.
Allman Brothers, my favorite band of all time is 1970s era Lynyrd Skynyrd, but Allman Brothers are definitely up there. So right now I'm just doing the treatment and gonna write the pilot for that, and then tell the story of the Allman Brothers in half a dozen episodes. That's kind of the plan. So
yeah,
I'm doing that, and then since I love to just wave paper around, this is my new horror novel. Which
I was just about to ask you, how's the actual novel writing going?
Good. This is my new one. It's actually all edited on the pages. I just got to put edits into the Microsoft Word, file and get going on that. But this is definitely the most fucked up Wagner novel. It's kind of what you might expect from me. Armageddon Chord, Rabbit Heart had their moments, and I love those books. But this one is really, I'm really proud of it. But it's definitely dark and horrific,
relentless,
and all that, relentless for sure. So anyway, so I'm doing all that, and then Broken Hope, we're writing new music. I
saw. So you thinking an EP in 2021?
Well, that's what I had posted that picture of my guitars, in the studio doing this like pre-production stuff.
Yeah.
And I said, we're looking to do an EP for 2021, and things are rocking along, because we have basically the foundation of 5 new songs, and we screwed around with the cover to do as a bonus track. We were thinking EP, But now, a couple labels reached out to us. Right now, we don't have a record deal, so we need a new home. But a couple labels that reached out to us said, you guys haven't put out an album since 2017. We urge you to write a full-length album, not an EP, because apparently also from a record label standpoint, it costs them as much to manufacture an EP as it does to manufacture a full-length album. And with that, EP is limited and sells for less. So, an album sells for more, and then an album you can do several versions, in different colored vinyl, different bonus tracks, foreign territories and stuff. So, talking to the guys, I ran that by him and said, look, let's do another full-length album. So that's now the new plan. So the
new goal. What made you guys decide not to continue with Century Media, or did the deal just run out and they elected not to renew? What's the story there?
Yeah, it was. We did 3 albums. We did 2 studio albums, live album, two or three concert DVDs, I think.
Yeah.
And we just parted ways. We had really a 2-record deal with them originally, and then Robert Camp, the original owner, sold the label to Sony.
And he sold it to Sony right around the time you guys signed, I remember. Because I remember seeing that news. Yeah, I remember seeing that news, and I was thinking to myself, Jesus, I wonder what that means for a band like Broken Hope, because, I mean, you guys are very, very extreme to be on a label that has any level of commercial or mainstream acceptability.
Yeah, I mean, we don't. It's not like we sell, a shitload of albums either. We're very niche and all that. So it's really a culmination of they didn't pick up our option, but that was fine because everyone that we worked with and really had a connection with and a relationship with and who we loved were in the U.S. office and the German office. And many of those people either were fired once the Sony thing really went on, and a lot of them just quit. So in the U.S., right before we parted ways, I mean, there was like only one girl there running stuff.
Yeah.
And then people jumped ship in Germany, from my understanding, and whatever. It was just we had a 2-record deal. Option was up, and we squeezed out a live album as well, and it's all good.
Yeah. It's interesting to me to see what's going on in the metal scene as far as labels are concerned, because I feel like Nuclear Blast is like the new Roadrunner. And then you've got a bunch of also Rands, and you don't have to chime into this because you have more of a vested interest in probably keeping positive relations than I do. But I would say labels like Metal Blade, Century Media, they're like the embarrassing granddad in the corner. And then you've got these great new labels that I feel are the guys injecting the real fresh blood into the scene. Deborah Morty, I think, have had the most ridiculously good year for great new releases that I can recall, frankly.
Yeah.
Season of Mist is putting out just a fuckload of great stuff. Agonia is putting out really, really good stuff. We've got a small label in the UK called Apocalyptic Witchcraft, which is kind of more black metal, but they're putting out really solid stuff. I feel like there's a couple of sort of stalwart labels that have fallen by the wayside, and then this fresh injection of talent is coming in, and I think it's exciting. But it's been interesting to observe that shift in the scene. Yeah.
Well, honest, I have to disagree with you on one thing with Metal Blade Records. A lot of the people I was close to at Century Media actually are now at Metal Blade Records.
Oh yeah.
So and they have our old 1990s back catalog.
Yeah.
Is Metal Blade Records. So for me, I have a relationship with the label. Tracy Vera, the president, now president, she's been there forever. She's great. I see, I don't know what the staff there was like before, 2019, 2020, because I was busy with Century Media. I kept in touch with people, but now that like 5 people I know from Century Media went to Metal Blade, I think that's a promising cast of characters over there, because they all really do love metal, and they really are enthusiastic about stuff. And the thing that I know Tracy likes to do is get her whole team excited about each release, which bodes well for a band putting out a record.
Yeah.
But I just wanted to inject that because
I think part of it might
doing some great stuff, and the staff. It's just.
I think part of it might also be down to personal taste. I feel like when it comes to extreme music, I feel like the bar every single year gets raised exponentially. Yeah, and we'll touch on this when we start the countdown for this. I think there's a lot of bands that have run out of tricks, and they just can't keep up with it any longer. And I feel like a lot of the labels, I guess it's for me, it's a personal interest thing. It's like the labels that keep pumping out those bands I just don't find interesting anymore.
Right. I mean, for me, like when I was on Century Media, there weren't, there was a shift where they were like really, the A&R and everyone was just into doing active rock.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's not the same label that, put out Unleashed and Morgoth.
Yeah, man. Cryptopsy, Moonspell, Samael. I was about to say they have an incredibly rich back catalog, and there's definitely been a real pivot there in terms of what they put out now.
Right. Yeah. It's just a different animal. But so to that end, I feel you. When it comes down to taste and what decisions are being made at a label, you're like, wow. And Season of Mist is doing great stuff, and I can't remember French label.
So Season of Mist is French. I think, if memory serves me correctly, I think Deborah Morty is French as well. Deborah Morty.
Okay.
So this year they put out Self.
There's another one. I just can't. The name's on the tip of my tongue. I can't think of the damn name, but anyway, obviously the French are doing great fucking.
I was about to say something's in the water over there.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. So on the topic of metal, let's get into this, because we can talk up I have the tendency to talk up a fucking storm. So I know we're going to be on this for a while, but I know you're a busy guy too. So I want to be realistic with how much of your time I can command.
I just wish you and I were neighbors out in the country, because we'd be barbecuing. We'd be our dogs would be playing. I saw a picture of you and your dog today. Is it your dog's birthday?
It is. Yeah, she turned 8 years old today.
8?
8, yeah.
Yeah, great, cool, man. Yeah,
she's amazing. But no, I completely agree with you, man. It would have been even better if we could have done this in person. But hopefully in 2021 we're going to get the chance to do that. But so I've been doing this this countdown of my favorite 50 death and grind bands of all time. I put in grind because there's a couple of bands I wanted to kind of chuck in there that were grind. Okay. Let me summarize where we're at, and then we'll start, because obviously this is the final installment in the series, and we're going to go down from 10 to 1. But I'll do a quick recap of where we're up to right now. So at number 50, I had Terrorizer. At number 49, I had Origin. At number 48, I had Brutal Truth. At number 47, I had Benediction. At number 46, I had 6 Feet Under. At number 45, I had Massacre. 44 was Carcass. 43 was Edge of Sanity. 42, Asphyx. 41, Necrophagia. 40, Autopsy. Number 39, Werewolves. 38, Entombed. 37, Misery Index. 36, Psychroptic. 35, Hypocrisy. 34, Cryptopsy. 33, Ulcerate, although I think off the strength of their new record, they would probably crack the top 10. I've just been completely obsessed with that new album. 32, Angel Corpse. 31, Vader. 30, Zyklon. 29, Job for a Cowboy. 28, Vital Remains. 27, Hate Eternal. 26, The Wretched End. 25, Bloodbath. 24, Valenfire. 23, Pig Destroyer. 22, At the Gates. 21, Sinister. 20, Decapitated. 19, Suffocation. 18, Gorguts. 17, Pestilence. 16, Cannibal Corpse. 15, Lockup. 14, Septic Flesh. 13, Cattle Decapitation. 12, Chrysian. 11, Atheist. And before I get to number 10, I think just to clarify around my reasoning as to how these bands have been selected, this is not one of those magazine, know-it-all lists. This is based on exactly what I like listening to and what I listen to most frequently and what's had the most influence on me personally. It's a list I most likely will end up revisiting at some point, but this is kind of how I'm feeling right now. So at number 10, a band that I think you know very well, Deicide, the band that when I was at school would most likely get you kicked out of school if you carried a Deicide CD with you. And it was one of those things that when you graduated from Slayer and you moved on to Deicide, you knew that there was no more turning back. You were now completely given over to Satan.
I'll give you a quick story because number 10 on your list, we had Sacrificial Suicide. And when I'd say, I think it was right around 1990, because I save everything, try to related to death metal, underground shit. I got like every demo tape to this day I ever got tape traded, back in the late 80s and early 90s and shit. And for all the millennials that might tune into the Necrosphere, there's these things called cassette tapes. People used to trade around the world via mail. And the tapes were demo tapes of underground death metal bands, extreme metal bands and stuff. So one time I got this awesome cassette. It had like 5 demos on it. And I think I'd almost bet on it. My friend Ed Farsky, who had a fanzine called the Book of Armageddon fanzine. Yeah. And Ed's now a promoter in New York City, and all he does is promote, extreme old school death metal bands, just even old thrash bands, from Razor to Deceased to Broken Hulk. We played there for him and stuff. Great. He's still got this foot in the underground. Anyway, Ed gave me this tape that he sent me via mail, and it had these demos by Deicide, and then maybe it was 89, and then there was a note on there, formerly Amon, which was written down. And one of the tracks was Sacrificial Suicide, a demo track. And then it was like, oh, this band is coming out with a debut album soon on Roadrunner Records. So that demo was extremely heavy. I just remember Sacrificial Suicide is just mind-blowing. I mean, all the songs on the demo, and then relevant to the first Deicide album, like you said, Jackie, you were in high school listening to Deicide could get you kicked out. Look, man, I thought when I heard Slayer, Altar of Sacrifice, Tom Araya screaming, praise, hail, sing, sing. Yeah. And then Deicide comes along, and they're not fucking around. Glenn's got an upside down crossbow in his head. But then that one song, Satan, Satan, I'm like, they made Slayer look like pussies. No.
Yeah. Dude, it was. So my experience of discovering Deicide, I have mentioned this on the podcast before, but I'll relate it to you. I was already deeply into a lot of thrash and stuff, and I was listening to a lot of Slayer and Sepultura and Pantera, and we had this BBC documentary on that was screened on television in South Africa that my dad recorded for me as a means to help me turn my life around. And so on this DVD, not video DVD, this documentary, this idiot starts off, saying, music used to be, or people used to think that Elvis Presley's hip thrusts were wild, but they didn't contend with an overt blasphemy and satanic imagery of devil worshipping speed and black metal like King Diamond, Slayer, and Deicide. And when he says Deicide, it fades into this clip of them live, and it was when Glenn was still thin, when he had the Amon Feasting the Beast spikes on, and he's there playing his bass up really high, and he's like, damn to hell, my life. And you see the people in the audience, obviously, being a BBC documentary, they're going to try and make it seem like it's the most extreme fucking crazy thing on the face of the earth. You see these people look all goggly-eyed at it, and you hear him yell at the end, take me. It was just like... This was supposed to shock me, and I watched it, and I was like, oh my God, this is the best thing I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah.
And I ended up taking the video and rewinding this clip over and over and over again until the tape was all stretched and fucked up. And then eventually a guy called me up out of the blue. Guy's now one of my best friends, and he's like, oh yeah, you're after the first Deicide album. I happen to have a second CD that someone gave me that I'll sell to you. And he and I kind of connected and became friends. But that first record that Deicide put out to me is about as close to imperfect perfection as you'll ever find. There are so many mistakes on that album, like Steve going out of time. The solos, frankly, if you think about them from a technical perspective, they sound like shit. But they sound exactly the way they should sound, and they sound perfect because of it. All of the mistakes, all of the flaws, everything about that album is exactly as it should be. And then Legion was great. Once Upon a Cross was great. And they made some good stuff after that. But for me, there's a recurring magic to hearing that first Deicide record that to this day, I can't shake. I still feel every so often, if I've had a couple of beers and I'm with a buddy and we're listening to it and we've got it playing loud, it's like there's a joy I get when I hear tracks like Deicide or what's his face, Mephistopheles or Carnage in the Temple of the Damned. I'll never outgrow. I just fucking love that album.
Me either. Oblivious to Evil is my favorite Deicide song.
Awesome track as well.
Love that song. Love that song.
Yeah, and it's so cool they play it live as well, and especially in those old days. Because the one sad thing for me was that, and I think it was through probably a being in the voice a little bit and it being on a lot of tours and stuff. It was a shame to me that Glenn's vocals changed as much as they did over time, because I really liked those mid-pitched vocals of his where he's like yelling more than anything else. He sounded so fucking angry. But when they did when they did Oblivious to Evil, in those old days, it's like Oblivious to Evil. He just sounds like he's fucking lost his mind. And he was one of those guys that truly convinced you, because especially in those old interviews, he looked like he was fucking insane.
Yeah.
He would answer the questions in this way, like, I think on the same documentary they ask him, so what's the purpose of Deicide's music? And he's like, to make the most evilest music and to gain entrance into the seven gates of hell. But
I'll tell you, man, we played with Deicide in the 90s when the Hoffman brothers were in the band. And between, Glenn, the Hoffman brothers, and Steve, they just, if you saw them on stage, they look like guys you would not fuck with. They embodied evil to me.
Yeah.
I was like, these guys mean business. They're not fucking around. And there's no band like them. They're really just, they're Deicide.
Yeah, 100%.
That's all you gotta say.
I was about to say,
Deicide, man.
I get the impression, I was curious to hear your take on what things were like when they came out, but they really seemed to kind of cut a path through a lot of what was coming out at the time, as far as death metal was concerned, as far as everything else concerned. A lot of it was the outrageousness of Glenn's personality. But yeah, there was like a level of, even though obviously later on it turned out to be, an act, as most things are. But there was like a believability to them in those early days, and the mystique that again, I just loved. It's almost like when you and I spoke about horror movies a year ago, you never had that knowing wink to the audience that this is bullshit, and that was what I loved, what I loved about it. You know those horror movies where, like, the difference between Hereditary and I Know What You Did Last Summer is throughout. No, I Know What You Did Last Summer. They're constantly reminding you, by the way, it's just a load of crap. This, but aside from the fact that it's poorly acted and poorly written, but you know what I mean. And with a lot of bands, it's kind of the same thing. I mean, to a point, I think Venom was that way. Venom started off with that mystique, and then it increasingly became they kind of kept reminding you that, oh, by the way, we don't really believe all of this shit. And with Deicide, it was there to like an extreme degree, and they never ever winked at the audience and kind of dialed back any of what they were doing, because they didn't, which meant that you felt like what you were seeing was convincing, and that is, I just love.
Yeah, me too.
I just love that. All right. Yeah. So at number 10, Deicide, my favorite track, the first track I ever heard. This is Sacrificial Suicide. So we move on to number 9, and another band that cut a path through all of their peers at the time, Morbid Angel. A band who I think have had, varying degrees of fortune as their career has gone on, but the one thing that has remained consistent has been the just brilliance of Trey Azagthoth on guitar. I mean, his work is, I think there's a couple of guitarists that, for me, it doesn't sound like they even have to practice. It sounds like they play a guitar and music flows from whatever they're doing. And Trey is one of them. Dimebag was one of them. Matt Pike from High on Fire is one of them. it just sounds like whatever they think is whatever comes through their fingers, and that was always the beauty to me in Morbid Angel's music. But I'll pause there, and I'll defer to you. Your view on them again. They were around when you guys were coming up as well.
Yep. There's well, first off, your list of 50 bands and songs, it's pretty mind blowing because there's so many bands. When you think about it, 50 extreme metal bands, death metal bands, black metal, whatever. I know you mentioned Zyklon. I don't know where they fit in. If they're black metal or death metal or a little both. But anyway, amazing list. Terrorizer, World Downfall, Morbid Angel, Altar of Sacrifice, and bought them both on the same day. And they were imports. Earache wasn't even licensed here in the US yet, so all their stuff was imported. And I already had Carcass and Entomb and some other stuff that I think right around that time. And so Morbid Angel became one of my favorite bands of all time to this day, in terms of inspiration and influence. Now, I've enjoyed their whole catalog, but Altars of Madness is my favorite Morbid Angel album.
Yeah.
And I've had the pleasure of having Broken Hope play with Morbid Angel, the classic lineup in the 90s, hanging out with those guys, again, 1990s, and just also I interviewed David and Trey when Domination came out. I interviewed them for a magazine.
You were writing for Rip Magazine, right?
Yeah, right. And so that stuff's cool. I got those interview tapes here somewhere. I'm going to transfer one of these days and upload them on my YouTube.
Oh, dude, that would be fucking awesome.
Because like talking to Trey alone, dude, he like that guy. He's a genius, and he's from another planet.
I was literally going to ask you.
And
I've never heard anyone describe him in any other way. He's the most eccentric, quirky genius maybe in death metal.
Yeah, he was. I recall going track by track on the Domination album and him telling me these, Cthulhu level names that he gave to his guitar solos. And then diving deep into the meaning behind the name and why he named the guitar solo that and stuff. That's just incredible. I mean, and
in between playing rounds of Doom online,
he's such a sick guitarist. But anyway, with Rapture, which is on your list, it's excellent track. And again, I endear myself to albums that just blew me away and had a profound influence on me. So despite the fact, again, I say, Altars of Madness is my favorite. Just Morbid Angel's albums are just fantastic. I know there's controversy about the last one that they did with Dave. There's like maybe people say there's like 6 good tracks on there or whatever, but I mean,
3 good tracks.
3 good tracks.
Yeah, I know what you mean though.
Yeah, and I will say this: they were never scared to go their own way.
Yeah,
no matter what. But talk about Covenant. I'm just curious, is Covenant your favorite Morbid Angel? Or
no,
you picked that track, or is there?
So 2 things. One, I was going to defer the choice of track to you, actually, given that they're one of your favorite bands. I'd say Rapture is definitely one of my favorite tracks. Covenant is a great record. It was the first Morbid Angel album that I owned.
Okay.
I'm very partial to Formula's Fatal to the Flesh, and it took me probably the better part of a year to really wrap my head around that album, because I was such a fan of Domination, and I was such a fan of David Vincent as a character, because at the time, when I was in school, I was a pretty intense cat, and I gravitated towards people that had a certain personality. And I remember reading an interview with him. There was this interview in Metal Hammer called, How Clean Is Your Bus or something. And
I remember that.
Yeah, and he's like, what are every one of you drinking? What do you guys like drinking? And he's like, water. Who's the biggest slob in the band? None of us are slobs. So for me, I didn't really like the like rock star kind of thing. In fact, when I was in school, I fucking genuinely hated it. So when I read that, to me, like, there was just something about him I really liked. I remember him seeing that interview that he did with what's her name? Was it Mary Warwick that used to do Headbangers Ball?
Vanessa Warwick,
yeah.
Yeah.
I remember seeing that interview, and he was so well spoken and such an eloquent guy, and I just there was just something that was just awesome to me about him. And so I really feel like Domination was his album. That was the David Vincent album. And so I love that record. When I got Formula Fatal to the Flesh, my initial response was, I can't believe they've changed so much. I don't like this. And I don't want to get into this. And then the more I listened to it, the more I was like, Jesus, this is just absolutely incredible. I think it actually, in many ways, probably expanded my appreciation for different types of extreme music. And if anything, in a bizarre, roundabout kind of way, probably pushed me more into a lot of the discordant black metal stuff that I listen to right now, in the sense that it was so, Trey on that record to me feels so creatively free with everything that he's doing. And in a weird way, it makes the record feel more extreme. And I don't know if any of that makes sense. But that's kind of my interpretation of it. But
I get it.
There's and one thing I wanted to comment on as well that you said is they were never afraid to experiment. I can respect that, because I would rather a band do whatever they want rather than make what they think people want to hear and it just sound like they're going through the numbers. Even if I don't like what they want, what they're presenting to me, rather be true to yourself, because at least I may hear 2-3 moments of true inspiration on a record. It might not be 100% to my taste, but I think it's better for an artist to be true to what they are feeling at the time and what's an honest and authentic creative expression for them, rather than doing what they think the fans want to hear.
Right. Yep.
But so one question I wanted to ask you about Morbid Angel, in terms of Trey as a guitarist. I mean, you mentioned he's a great guitarist, but technically, how do you kind of assess his playing? As somebody whose guitar playing is rudimentary at best, to me, it's just mind-boggling what he does. How do you see it? Because, I mean, you're technically highly proficient yourself.
I look at him, guitar players that I admire for various reasons. There's guitar players whose leads blow me away, but not necessarily their rhythm playing. They're not like riff makers,
Yeah.
And then there's rhythm guys who are extraordinary riffers, but not the greatest solo guys. They don't branch out. Like, I'm not a big solo guy. I love writing heavy fucking riffs. I don't really shred with Broken Hope, but a guy like Trey, he's got it all, in my opinion. He writes such sick riffs, always has. His riff writing is just fucking awesome. That's what blew me away as a young guitar player, listening to early Morbid Angel, was his riffs. And then his solos are fucking next level. They're stellar. They're like Trey himself, as I mentioned, my impression talking to him is he's from another plane, another world. And I've always felt, and I'm not trying to sound silly, that his solos are also something he reached for from some other atmosphere, because his solo is so, you never hear solos like his. He's got a signature sound. Morbid Angel has a signature sound. Trey has a signature sound. His tone, his lead style, and everything. Plus, if I'm not mistaken, Trey, back in the day, I'd read every interview I could with Morbid Angel in it. And I remember Trey was in a guitar magazine or two, and he talked about how he worshipped Eddie Van Halen, if I'm not mistaken. And I just thought that was so cool, because I never heard any death metal musician ever say, I love, you know, Eddie Van Halen or anything, which is kind of funny just hearing myself say that out of my mouth, because I always loved Eddie Van Halen and Van Halen and stuff. But it's just not, you always hear guitar players in death metal talking about other different, more metal-based, you know, guitarists, you know.
Yeah.
But my influences were Tony Iommi when I was, you know, a kid.
Yeah. And then Judas Priest, and
yeah,
I know what you mean.
Brought a whole new set of, you know, personal inspirations and influences to the table, and was vocal about it, and just all around. This Trey he's very, very unique and very just he's awesome. You know.
Yeah. Agree.
We need more Trey fucking recordings, I think.
I agree. I totally agree.
You know.
So,
yeah.
Deferring to you, what is the, you know, if you had to introduce Morbid Angel to somebody who didn't know who they were, what would your song of choice be?
Okay. Chapel of Ghouls, and you know, up there with Chapel, if I could just mention another track. Well, Chapel of Ghouls, Visions from the Dark Side, you know, those are off the debut album, but the song Dawn of the Angry off Domination.
Great song.
Any of those tracks, you know, I would say, you know, that's the shit. That's your gateway into Morbid Angel's world. That's what I used to.
I used to do a radio show when I was in South Africa, and I used to finish off almost every single show with playing Dawn of the Angry.
Oh, really?
As a matter of fact, it's the very first song I ever played when I did my very first episode was Dawn of the Angry. I mean, that was literally like a creed for me, that song. I loved it. Okay, so let's for nostalgia's sake, let's go with that, unless I get blocked on copyright grounds. So off Domination, this is Morbid Angel with Dawn of the Angry.
Behind the line, torn in the sand.
number 8, another band who I think blazed the trail, and who I think, when I mentioned before about there's certain bands that run out of things in their bag of tricks, I really feel like this band has continued to push the songwriting envelope whilst sticking true to their original vision. The band, of course, is Nile. I don't think there's a band that sound like them. And, I think it's incredible that they keep on producing just astoundingly good music, several records in. Your views on them? I mean, they kind of are a generation after Broken Hope. But Carl is, he must be older than you, I think.
Yeah, I'm not sure how old Carl is. I remember first meeting Carl and Niall, I think around 1995.
Yeah.
If I got that right. Maybe it was 97 when we were on our Loathing tour. I think it's 97. Anyway, those guys, if I'm not mistaken, from South Carolina, we were playing a show in Charlotte, North Carolina, and they opened for us. They were one of the local bands. They came up and opened. And I remember Carl was just really cool, really, really nice guy. And we talked about guitar gear. And I remember he had a rack of fucking guitar gear that I was drooling over it. I remember he had big ass Mesa power amp and effects and all this shit. I was just like, God damn, I don't even have I had rack envy of all his stuff, man. That's why I remember when I first met him. And then when the band came out with, their first album and stuff, dude, I was blown away. I mean, I was impressed by the band when they opened for us, before they had an album out. And you're right. No one sounds like those guys.
No.
And I've got, I think what got my attention was that the first album, Amongst the Catacombs or something.
Nephron Car.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Remember that. Black Seeds of Vengeance I really like. That's the one that sticks out in my head. But anyway, I love their whole theme, the whole Egyptian angle. I have a personal passion for Egyptian history. In fact, my debut novel.
I was just about to say some of that influenced the Armageddon Chord as well.
Based on Egyptian history and the Pharaoh Akhenaten and all this stuff. So nobody has that kind of imagery in lyrics and everything like Carl and Niall do. Plus, cool fucking name Niall and their logo is just.
Well, they used to. If I could swear either under the name Niall or just the same guys but under a different name. Part of how they financed getting the band, up and running was they used to do Priest covers and Slayer covers at bars. That was their gig from the early 90s. Yeah. And then eventually they kind of started, and again, I speak under total correction on this, but I could swear I've read something similar in a Carl interview where he said that, initially how they kind of got started was being a cover band, and doing covers of old metal bands. But yeah, I agree with you. I mean, I don't think there's a single band that does it as well and as authentically as these guys do. One of the finest examples being off their fourth record, Annihilation of the Wicked. And this is a song called Lashed to the Slave Stick. Well, we can probably skip over the next band. I kind of put them in just on a whim. I don't know whether you know that. So Broken Hope at number 7. Now, I will say this, and I would never say something to placate you. I got told in some feedback at work the other day, Jackie, you're too honest sometimes. So I'm going, but I'm complete honesty. If this were a list of my favorite live death metal bands, if it were a list of my favorite live bands, you guys would be very high up. If it were favorite live death metal bands, you guys would be number 1 by a huge stretch. I think part of the Broken Hope experience is seeing you guys live, because I don't think the songs, I think the songs have sort of or gain an additional character to them when you see them live. The way you guys have been performing, in the last 2 shows that I saw you play, the way that Damien engages the crowd, the way you guys are performing, and you're all on it to the degree that you are, in exactly the way that there's like a convincing, although there was a convincing satanic vibe to Deicide, there's a convincing vibe of badassness to Broken Hope. And I think the one thing about what you guys do that translates so well live is the amount of groove and just slam that's in all of the music, particularly some of the newer songs, but even some of the older stuff. Just the grind and the groove just sounds so fucking hard live. It's absolutely incredible. It's on a par with the best of the best bands you'd ever see live. And I said to you at the time, I was so annoyed for you guys that the show in London, the last one, was as poorly organized as it was, because I was watching it, and I was telling my friend at the time, and I was telling my girlfriend, like, this band should have 500 people watching them, because this is 100% one of the best death metal shows I've seen, and I've seen many, many, many in the last 20 years. But I guess
for that.
Yeah, no, I mean, I don't want to go on talk, sounding like I'm
appreciate
tongue in Uranus, but you know what I mean. It's
we're it's sort of like the James Brown mentality. James Brown, hardest working man in show business. He'd make like his band. He would do a show, and then after the show, go, "We're going to rehearsal now," like crazy. We're not that crazy, but we do have strong work ethic, and a lot of that has to do with all the other guys in the band, because they all push and push and push to rehearse, and everyone picks out songs that they want to see and perform in the set list, and what makes sense, and how a set list flows along, and what impact we can have, and I'm thinking about what songs we haven't played in a while, blah blah blah. So when you see us, there's a lot that goes into that. And then also when you see us, we don't fuck around. We make sure we got the best sound man we can bring on tour. And we're fans too. When you buy a ticket, whether, we're playing that shithole bar in London that you saw us last time. It certainly wasn't Camden Underworld by a long shot. And but you know what? We still went in with our sound man, our production, and we're like, people that are here, they deserve to see fucking what Broken Hope is, and we're professional death metal band, and we want to give everyone their money's worth and have a great time. We're having fun. You guys are gonna have fun. Here we go. So, but performing is like one of our favorite things. So
yeah.
So when you say that, I do really, no bullshit, appreciate the word, kind words.
Yeah.
I know your tongue's not up my arse. I know you mean it.
I think also, when you guys play live in Damien, you've got a guy who it's been so interesting to see him develop as a frontman, because I've seen you guys 3 times with him. The first time, you could tell he was still getting used to that level of being in the spotlight, and being a guy who doesn't have his guitar like he does in his other band. And then he's just become such a commanding presence on stage during that time, like it's probably like a 5-year period.
Yeah.
He's got a great look on stage. He's muscled up. He looks like a fucking badass, and he's got this real like hulking, menacing presence on stage now. I mean, it was a real find, I think, for you to get him when you got the band back together again.
Yeah, that worked out really good. He came from the right mindset, First off, when I say mindset, Gorgasm, Chicagoland, extreme death metal band, horror lyrics, gore lyrics. I mean, it's like fits it right in with what Broken Hope's always done, And then his approach to guttural vocals is he takes it so seriously. He practices in his car, to CDs or MP3s and shit. In his car, he will rehearse outside of Broken Hope band practice. And from the day he joined the band, even to this day, he'll still say that, Joe Thychek basically laid down the frontman guttural vocals sound of Broken Hope. Those are big shoes I'll never completely fill, but I'm always doing my best. That's his attitude. And because of him, we've never deviated from our formula of what Broken Hope is. I mean, I wrote the riffs ever since day one of Broken Hope. Joe, who's not with us anymore, I'd write the lyrics, we'd work them out together one-on-one, and his whole attitude was always, since he was a teenager in high school with me when we formed the band, I want to be the sickest, most guttural vocalist ever. No one ever said the word guttural, in our neighborhood, in the Chicago burbs, and late 1980s, 89, 90, and he already knew his vision, how he wanted to sound. So that said, Damien really respects that spirit of Joe, if you will. And that means a lot to me personally, for one, and it means a lot to just our, I don't know what you call our brand of death metal, we're Broken Hope. So, and I'm real proud of Damien, the way he's come along as a front man. But like you said, I couldn't imagine, I can't sing and play guitar at all. I can't even talk really and play guitar, I don't know how people do it. But he does that, and then with Orgasm, then comes into Broken Hope with no guitar, and he's just, like you said, this force, this front man, and he has evolved better and better and better. There's something to say about stage presence. You can head twirl, you can head bang, or whatever, but outside of that, what do you got? And he talks to the crowd. He's got this presence. We're very fortunate, man. Like you said a few minutes ago, finding him at the time when Broken Hope reformed, he was the best thing, one of the best things that could have happened to us.
And then, I spoke earlier about bands that at a certain period run out of tricks. Mm-hmm. You guys, I think, have managed to avoid that because, you brought out Mutilated and Assimilated, which arguably, in my view, is one of the best records you've ever done. And what was cool about it was there was a lot of stuff on there that was true to the Broken Hope sound, but was different to what you guys had done before. It was subtle tweaks, but it was kind of like how I would define the innovation that a band like Napalm Death does to a probably slightly lesser degree. But there is a sound that's Napalm Death. There's a sound that's Broken Hope. And then within that, there's a level of experimentation and variation that occurs. And that I think is great. There's always something a little different to sink your teeth into. Like I said, maybe it's different groove or different, way that you bring about melody in it. If I kind of roll back to the track that I'd initially had in mind to play, Felching Vampires. Mm-hmm. I know you did that many years ago. For me, if I could write a set list for you guys live, that would be like your Seek and Destroy or your Angel of Death. That would be what you always close the show with, because it has that epic moment at the end where you've got the lead like da da da, and you've got the like the trademark Broken Hope groove right at the end. I think that to me is just a beautiful example of what you did even at an early stage in your career with that Broken Hope sound. It's like, okay, that's the arena that we're playing in. But what can I tweak and what can I change inside that arena to make it sound unique and make it sound a little bit different?
Right. Yeah, that's what I love about writing music is, just when I thought what's next, what can I come up with next? Riffs always end up coming. It's just that's a wonderful experience to have riffs flow for me as a guitar player that I didn't see coming, and then those riffs make songs. And then you have guys like Matt Schlaka, our other guitar player, who brings in this level of harmonies, and he even took songs on Mutilated Assimilated in his studio, and he became this arranger. He actually rearranged shit that I wrote, and it actually made the song better, and like you said, like Napalm Death, which, by the way, I love the last Napalm Death album so far.
Love it as well.
And that's a band who consistently blows my fucking mind. It's Napalm Death. You got that sound. You can't mistake it. They keep coming up with new riffs and songs that, will just cleave your head off. Just bam, holy shit, this is Napalm Death. They can do no wrong. That's the thing with Broken Hope. We have an identity with our sound, and we every album we want to keep things interesting. We want to retain that sound, but we want to bring something new to the table. No matter what, we never compromise on the brutality or anything. But our attitude, and going back to Joe and me, man, like in the early days, what I've always held on to, that him and I always pledged ourselves to, is not to ever write a song that's fucking filler or just to fill in the gaps or anything. Every song has to fucking destroy, So the song Felching Vampires, before I go down another rabbit hole, that's a song that could have got you in trouble in high school, Jack.
Oh, yes. Yeah, I know.
If any of your teachers or whatever were wise, what the fuck Felching was. And I got to give credit to, once again, to the late, great Joe Thychuk. Felching Vampires was his idea for lyrics, because that came from a underground comic book that I think it was called Felching Vampires, or Felching Vampires was a story in a comic book by another name. But anyway, it was like, he had this underground comic. He goes, holy shit, you need to read this, Wagner. And he gives it to me. Look, read this Felching Vampires story. And I was reading it. I'm like, what the fuck? I had never heard the word Felch in my life, man. That was a new one. And then, boom, the next thing I know, we got, these lyrics for a song called Felching Vampires. And then the music is just fucking, I love that song personally. I love The Balls of Repugnance. That's
great.
Cool. What's your favorite album of your discography? It's they're all my children, so it's like I got all these little connections to each one. But The Balls of Repugnance, I just love that album, and it gets the one album I could say I could play it live start to finish if I ever did. But so Felching Vampires just came together with the lyrics and the music, and it's so funny because that years and years since that album came out in '93, I meet people to this day from big bands, small bands to fans, and people just go, felching vampires, man. Fucking felching vampires. So, yeah.
So, dude, I know you're a very busy guy, and I know that you've got a lot on your plate, but I really do hope that there's a new Broken Hope record. I hope I get to see you guys live again, and I hope I get to hear the song. We'll play it right now. This is off of The Bowels of Repugnance, the third Broken Hope record, if memory serves me correctly. Came out on the 27th of September. Second. 27th of September, 1993, The Bowels of Repugnance, out on Metal Blade Records, and the track is called Felching Vampires. Right.
And mark my words, doesn't matter how busy I am, part of my busy schedule is Broken Hope. That's rolled into. So getting a new Broken Hope album written is definitely job one here. So,
well, I will fly to the US to come and see you guys play. So that is how highly I think of the Broken Hope live experience. Okay, so at number 6, out of the very mean streets of Baltimore, Maryland, Dying Fetus. So I first heard Purification Through Violence literally when it came out, actually, and I had never heard anything so brutal in my entire life. And I remember reading our mutual friend Aaron McKay's review of Killing on Adrenaline in Chronicles of Chaos, and I remember him saying that if they make music any heavier than Killing on Adrenaline, you're going to need special equipment to listen to it in your car. And that's kind of been the vibe of this band. And what I've been amazed by is how a band like that, calling themselves Dying Fetus and making the music that they make can have gained this weird cult appeal where, people just love them. And as much as people love them, they just release more, more aggressive, heavier, nastier music, culminating, in my view, with their best record, which was the last one, which, very much in thumbing to the mainstream, they called Wrong One to Fuck With.
I know.
Which is just to me is just pure genius. But you must know those guys like John Gallagher and those guys. You would have you come across them in your travails through the scene?
God, yeah. So real quick, when you mentioned Aaron McKay and Dying Fetus, when Broken Hope played, I think the club was called Twisters in Richmond, Virginia. Aaron McKay came to that show. That's the first time I met Aaron. And he was a Broken Hope fan since Swamp and Gore. He had written us a letter, I remember. And he was like an aide to a senator or something.
Yeah, dude.
In Iowa. He's like
seriously political
piece
guy.
of stationery from a government office, and it's like, hey, I fucking love Swamp and Gore.
Yeah.
I'm an aide to Senator so-and-so. I'm like, holy shit. Like, when you're like 20, 21 years old, like me anyway, I couldn't get my head around that. I'm like, what, some dude up in government likes fucking help, it's like crazy. So anyway, he came years later, he came to see Broken Hope on the Loathing tour. And also at that show was John Gallagher. And that's the first time I met John. John actually came up and sang Swamp and Gore with Joe on stage. So that was really fucking cool.
Dude, that would have been incredible.
And then, just over the years, I've always followed Dying Fetus, what they're doing, listening to all their albums. They consistently bludgeon. Fucking, that's a hell of a band. And the riffs are sick. They're just awesome. And I think Wrong One to Fuck With came out in 2017, if I'm not mistaken, because that's when Mutilated and Assimilated came out. And I remember, wow, this is a great year for death metal, like all these, I think Suffocation had a new album and a bunch of bands. And then we went to Europe, and one of the last festivals we did was with Dying Fetus and us in Germany, Death Feast Open Air, I believe. And fucking great show, man. Dying Fetus did a cover, a Broken Hope cover of song Gorehog.
Yeah, there's a I can't remember what the EP is
History
called.
Repeats, I think.
Yes, yeah, it's on there.
EP. And so for me, that was a huge honor that someone like Dying Fetus did a cover to Broken Hope song. And so anyway, I love that band. I love John Gallagher, man. He's just fucking cool, nice fucking dude, man. And he's super.
How come you guys never went on tour together? Like, especially, I would say 2017, it would have been ripe for you guys to go on tour.
Yeah. I would love to. They're great. And my band, the band guys love Dying Fetus too. I think, between Damien's got some history. I don't know if Orgasm and Dying Fetus ever played together or not, but everyone loves that band.
I'm about to say 2021 or 2022, your body will never feel the same again tour. Go headliner with Dying Fetus, and
it would be fucking a real treat and a real feather in my cap of my history of Broken Hope to do a tour with Dying Fetus.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Badass. All right, so let's get to the tune. So this is, I don't know whether this would count as a
great song title, by the way. I didn't mean to cock block your intro to the song, but the song From Womb to Waist.
Oh yeah, no, I agree.
That's what you're going to play, right?
I am, yeah. So this is.
Yeah.
I don't know whether this is would be classed as a deep cut, but it's off Reign Supreme, which I think is just an incredible record.
Yeah.
Came out in 2012 on Relapse, and as we've just said, the song is called "From Womb to Waste."
It's not my fault I'm pregnant and I love drugs. Who cares? Fuck the baby, let it die.
we move on.
Hey,
At number
Jackie,
5.
I gotta say something real quick.
Yeah.
Sorry again to fucking cock block you, but I'm just looking at your list of your top 10 and a lot of these other tracks in the top 50, and you're like, I know you're into like, aren't you into like mixed martial arts or boxing and
Yeah.
you work out, you and your girlfriend still.
I still do weights and stuff like that. I haven't done mixed martial arts or anything like that for a while, just because of time. So I do weights, but that's about it. Why?
Okay, well, just even working out in the gym, when I see these songs, it's like, it just hit me like, man, I could see Jackie fucking slinging iron and fucking just going to town, fucking listening to Dying Fetus and Crisian and fucking Suffocation and like that. I mean, that's great gym music. I know,
dude. You will notice
my own for the gym.
a stark theme when it comes to all the music that I listen to. Especially when it comes to death metal. Like I've never liked melodic death metal. I don't like anything pretty and nice in death metal. Yeah, I don't really like it in black metal either, to be frank. But like, I'm gonna try and word this in a way that won't land me in trouble. But the idea of masculinity and death metal to me is very important. I want fucking man's music, badass music. And I that's what I relate to. And if it's not for everybody, that's fine. I relate to it. And that's why I love stuff like Broken Hope and Dying Fetus and bands like that. And why I like a certain kind of death metal. And and absolutely. I mean, if you look at any of the, if I get a new personal best or whatever, I'll always have like a Broken Hope track playing in the background or something like that.
Yeah.
Whenever I need to kind of, push that little bit extra, I'll stick on Swamped in Gore, or I'll stick on Dying Fetus or Deicide or something like that.
Yeah. Cool.
And actually, I'll probably stick on this next band as well, because if ever there's a band whose music is wedded to masculinity, it's this band. Possibly because Josh Barnett uses them to walk in when he's about to fight with Bolt Thrower. I mean, a fucking battering ram. Just like Tank Battalion of a band, and they probably have a track called Tank Battalion at some point, but it's just phenomenal. I can't describe them in any other way. A band that to me epitomize what groove needs to sound like in a death metal band. Bettered, in my view, in the art of groove, arguably by only one band, which we'll come to in a second. But your thoughts on Bolt Thrower?
Well, remember when I told you back in the day when I was, young Broken Hope incarnation and buying death metal albums, and I bought earache titles that were imports. Bolt Thrower were one of those bands, that were import. And I can't remember if it was Realms of Chaos or, hang on, I'm just looking up something here to make sure I got my facts straight. No, it was that In Battle There Is No Law. That must have been what I had, because get this, here's this Bolt Thrower story for you. First time I saw Morbid Angel, again, their album Altars of Madness was only an import, and I drove from Chicago, Illinois to Buffalo, New York to see Morbid Angel play at Death Fest at the headline. And while I was there, David Vincent gave the DJ that running the sound and shit this new Bolt Thrower album, and it was Realms of Chaos. Because I remember the DJ came on, David Vincent from Morbid Angel is giving us an advance of the new Bolt Thrower album. Check it out and shit. And I was like, wow, that's fucking great. So, Bolt Thrower, my thoughts are classic, pioneering death metal band. A band who really, their lyrics and vision of warfare, their artwork, everything was just fucking killer, man.
Yeah, unbelievable.
That's a band who, again, like all these other bands we talk about, has their own distinct sound.
Yeah.
I mean, they're just so fucking heavy. And
I think there was a period in death metal where that went away, and that was, to me, when I kind of really started to angle more towards black metal, is there were too many bands coming out that were trying to sound too technical, or just too many bands that sounded the same. And then you go back to the roots of the scene, and particularly that explosion of great stuff that came out in the early 90s, and every band sounded so unique and so distinct. And amidst that, Bolt Thrower was just absolutely extraordinary. I don't think they've got a shit album. I don't actually think they've got a shit song. So I want to pause on the next couple of bands in particular. So I'm going to move us along pretty quickly.
Yeah, go for it.
This is off one of my favorite Bolt Thrower records, The Fourth Crusade. The track is called Where Next to Conquer. Now, I said that Bolt Thrower's groove is topped by one other band, and it is this band, Obituary. One of the most unique sounding death metal bands.
You had to get me started on Obituary.
I was just about to say, I knew we were going to pause on this one, so that's why I wanted to do kind of move straight on. I mean, so fucking sick. I remember getting the Incomplete for the first time, and it was the first time I'd ever heard Obituary, and that opening riff to "I'm in Pain" starts playing, and it's just perfect. Like, the riff sounds great. They're like da, 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 and then Donald is like, it's like it's pure magic. And from then on, I was a dyed in the wool Obituary fan. And what I've been so happy with is to see how well they've gone on to do as a band. It was great seeing. Sorry, I said Donald. I meant John. I love seeing them open for Slayer. I love seeing them being able to relate to new audiences and get new audiences in. And again, like you guys, they're one of the few bands that just don't seem to lose a step. I don't think their records have necessarily been as great. Their recent stuff as maybe something like Mutilated and Assimilated. But I think that early run that they went on, including some of the albums that people didn't like World Demise and Back from the Dead, to me is just golden.
Yeah. For me, Slowly We Rot, debut album, that's the one that to this day is my favorite. And they put out a bazillion albums in their career, and every one of those albums is really good in my opinion. And the band are just great guys. I love those guys. We've toured with them. Donald Tardy, him and I are really tight. Trevor, I could go on. John, Ken, Terry. I mean, they're all great. Frank Watkins, who's no longer with us, he was a great friend of mine. Just Obituary history. In fact, the first national bands Broken Hope ever opened for were we opened for Sepultura, Obituary, and Sadist. And I was on cloud fucking nine because I'm like, I can't believe I'm opening for Obituary, and Sepultura and Sadist. That was cool too, but Obituary, that's my band, Slowly We Rot is just, you want to encapsulate some of the greatest fucking riffs ever in one album. That album's it. Now, The Incomplete, that's also great. There's something on every album by Obituary that I really fucking like.
Yeah.
And for me, but again, Slowly We Rot. Was The Incomplete your first Obituary experience?
Yeah, that was my first Obituary experience. I think my most consistently listened to Obituary record has probably been Cause of Death. I really, really like that album. But I agree with you
so good.
I mean, everything that they've done. Certainly those last records. I'm not as big of a fan of the most recent stuff, but those first records. And again, like I said, I include Back from the Dead, World Demise, stuff that people didn't like as much. I thought those records were great. But there's just a magic to all of that stuff.
Big time. I'm glad to see them in your top 10.
Oh yeah. Now, as far as I'll edit this out if you say no, and I'll completely understand if you don't want to do it. I would never use somebody to network off of, but I would fucking love to talk to Donald Tardy for the simple fact that not only do I like their music, but I'm a big barbecue nut, as you know. And I know he is as well. And I'm sure we'd have a fuckload to talk about. He's always struck me as the kind of dude, like, I've always said, like, if ever there's a band that I know would be great to hang out with just as guys, and you mentioned, them being great guys early, Obituary, just, they're the dudes. It's like, they look like exactly my kind of people.
They're my kind of people. Like, we shared tour bus with them, on tour, and just pure fucking chemistry growing up. I mean, like, we get each other. Trevor Perez, man, we always, if you talk to him and mention my name, we always say this about each other. Him and I are cut from the same cloth. That I fucking love that guy, and all those guys. We click, we get along, and we're just great. And Donald Tardy does this great work with Feral Cat.
I know. I saw a video about that, which I think is awesome. I actually want to get Damien on here as well to talk about the stuff that he does with the dog rescue.
Yeah. I'll talk to those guys if I can connect you. That I think that would be great.
Yeah, dude. No, I appreciate that, and that's something I'd love to talk about and give some exposure also.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Dude, you can't go wrong with appearing on a show called Into the Necrosphere. That's all I gotta say.
Exactly. So okay, I'll defer back to you on the song choice on this one because I know you're a big fan of Obituary.
Yeah.
So your song of choice for me to include in the post edit.
You mean I get to pick an Obituary song?
You do.
Okay. I want you to play Intoxicated.
All right. So this is Obituary
Maybe
with Intoxicated off of Slowly We Rot.
Rise from the dark.
right, we're getting to the business end now.
All right.
Number 3. I know more guys that you're friends with and that you know very well.
Oh, yeah.
Master musicians, master songwriters, and again, a band who have consistently remained brilliant. Immolation.
Yep.
So I'll put it to you to kind of give me your thoughts and some anecdotes from, when you guys were coming up together. They're always a band. I feel like they're a band that have always been massively underestimated, or at the very least for the biggest chunk of maybe the first 2 decades of their career, they were just overlooked for some insane reason. And they're only really now getting the recognition or part of the recognition they deserve.
Well, yeah, dude, Immolation, my opinion, they should be in like the big 5 of death metal bands. If you think of Cannibal Corpse, Obituary, Deicide, I don't know who else would be up there, Carcass, Death, that goes without saying. Immolation, it deserves to be up there, man. I mean, they, if I'm not mistaken, they formed in '88, same year as Broken Hope. Before, I think in '88 '88 they were Immolation. Before that they were Rigor Mortis. And dude, their second demo is one of my favorite recordings. I'm not just saying favorite demos of all time, favorite recordings in death metal to this day. The song Internal Decadence, man, is fucking just the riffs, the sound. That song is just gives me chills. But when they came out, Roadrunner, they did the right thing, signed an Immolation, man, because that was a band that fucking not only had a huge underground fucking presence back in the day, but nobody sounded like Immolation. And no one sounds like Immolation now. Only Immolation sounds like Immolation. I've been friends with Ross Dolan since we were teenagers, and Bob's also a good friend of mine. Those 2 guys have just been two people I just fucking love to death. They're great friends. And that aside, they are brilliant musicians, extremely brilliant musicians. And seeing Immolation on your list in the top 10, that's a great thing, because they're fucking one of the greatest death metal bands on this planet in all history.
I completely agree. And one thing I want to highlight as well, in my opinion, and again, folks might disagree with me on this, but their influence, I think, one, is massively underestimated, but the direction that a lot of black metal has gone recently, where it's incorporating a lot more of the death metal influences, and black metal as a whole has become more extreme. I cannot but hear a lot of Immolation influence in that, whether bands acknowledge it or not. It's absolutely present. They brought a darkness to death metal that I don't think was present before. Genuine darkness, not just satanic imagery or whatever the case may be. The riffs that those guys write, there's a coal black thread running through all of it.
I could not have said that better myself, man. What you just said. You're absolutely right. They bring a tone, a darkness, as you said, that death metal had before, still doesn't quite have. And they're in this unique piece of, I don't know, what do you call it, death metal history. They're just, history's not over, they're still here, but they're unique in such a way that they appeal to black metal fans, death metal fans, because they're the real fucking deal. They, like you said, the way you described it, you describe it better than me, man. It's just this embodiment of darkness that they carry through their music. And it's no nonsense. There's no bullshitting these guys. They just give you Immolation. and that music, it's death metal, but again, yeah, it sounds redundant. It's that darkness woven into their music that is unlike any other band.
Yeah.
It's just,
No, I agree.
it's cool.
Plus,
and their formula is the same as it ever was. Immolation when you hear Immolation. And
yeah.
Fucking very special, very special.
And profoundly thoughtful lyrics as well. You like the song that I want to select. I know that it again probably counts as a bit of a deep cut for them, but every single one of their songs, especially in their later records, there's a real intelligence and a real thoughtfulness to what they're writing. It's cool to do some of the really rebellious, raucous teenage, I hate God kind of stuff. But I think as you get older, you start to appreciate more of the thoughtfulness of a band like Immolation, where they're dealing with things at a personal level, at a social level, at a cultural level, and they're talking about concepts that really are. It's a step above what a lot of bands, in death metal and otherwise, would care to cover.
Yeah, absolutely. Just knowing Ross and Bob and touring with those guys, and I try to keep in touch with Ross and Bob, every month or 2 months, just via text. Sometimes we'll get on the phone. Those, again, dear friends of mine, and they're both really super intelligent. And you get on a subject with these guys. I don't know if you've met those guys in person,
no,
but
I've spoken to.
They're very approachable. You start talking to them, and I mean, like Ross. You get on a subject, man, and you hear Ross talk about stuff, and it's just like it makes all the sense in the world. I mean, and that reflects in their lyrics. Just what you said, it's different.
Yeah.
It's at another level.
I interviewed Rob for Chronicles of Chaos. Ross I've never met, but I've always been a huge fan of his vocals. I love the pronunciation in his voice. I love the way that he injects rhythm into what he does. I just think he's astounding. So this is my favorite Immolation track, and there's many to choose from. This is off a album called Kingdom of Conspiracy. Came out back in 2013 on Nuclear Blast, and the track is called All That Awaits Us.
He was
So at number 2, a band that we mutually appreciate very strongly, and we've kind of touched on as we've gone through this conversation, Napalm Death.
Yes, well, go ahead, because with some of your other picks, again, in the top 10, I'm really delighted to see Napalm Death in your top 10. They'd be in my top 10 for goddamn sure.
Yeah.
But the track you selected is from a very somewhat controversial album. I remember when this album came, Fear, Emptiness, Despair, right?
Yeah. So
that came out, man. That was back in my circle. We're like, whoa, wow, this is Napalm Death. This is it's a little different. And then that fucking album grew on me, you know. But yeah,
that was my go-to whenever I would go to a house party or a school dance or something like that. I would take that CD with me, and I would convince somebody to play a Plague Rages, and very quickly I would get banned from whatever we were at. I would be asked never to return again. I would never get a repeat invite because the violence that would erupt with the fucking moshing. I mean, I remember once I was playing that at a school dance, and they pulled in like one of like those stands that they sit on next to the football field. People were stage diving off of that into just normal people just lying there like begging, like, leave us alone.
Jesus Christ.
People just went ballistic to that song. And it wasn't my first Napalm Death record. My first Napalm Death exposure was actually that EP they brought out. There was a track on it called Mass Appeal Madness. And,
yes.
Did the rounds on Headbangers Ball. I got
Mass Appeal Madness is one of my favorite Napalm Death songs. That riff at the end will destroy me every time.
Yeah, no, great track. But yeah, so then Fear, Emptiness, Despair came out, and I kind of didn't know what to make of it for the first couple of listens, but I just wanted to keep listening to it. And the more I listened to it, the more it grew on me. And for me, I've said this many, many times on this podcast. I'm going to say it again. I truly believe that one of the most underrated songwriters in this genre of music, and when I say genre, I mean the extreme music, metal, actually, frankly, all genres of music, is Shane Embury. Mm-hmm. I think what he has done with Napalm Death, because he's one of the main songwriters, what he's done, but basically since he joined the band, all the way through Fear, Emptiness, Despair, the period in the 90s where they were doing a lot of different stuff, all of which I loved. Yeah. Then kind of pivoting back to some of the more extreme stuff, starting with Enemies of the Music Business, all the way through to the new record. He has always found a way to make Napalm Death sound fresh, aggressive, hungry, and just fucking brilliant. And he very, very rarely is off the mark. The guy is a genius, and everyone who surrounds him is great as well. They fit together perfectly.
I couldn't agree more, man. That classic lineup when Jesse was in the band, I mean that band could do no wrong, and they're still fucking great. That last album is one of my favorites of this. Yeah, last year.
I agree. One of the best records of the year.
I heard something that good, you know.
Yeah.
But real quick, when Harmony Corruption came out, I was working in a music store called the CD Store. All they sold were CDs. That was the big thing, 1990. I think that's when it came out, 90 or 91. Anyway, had to be 91 because Swamp Thing Gore was just coming up. But anyway, it was like the end of the year, holiday, Christmas season, and the store manager said, I'm going to let each of you employees pick out an album from this year that you want to play. Everyone that don't care the genre, you can play whatever. So people are putting on fucking whatever, REM and all this shit. And I said, yeah, right here, Napalm Death, Harmony Corruption. And looking at the CD, Napalm Death, like it had 4 heads. I'm like, you guys fucking stocked the album here in the store. You acted like you never saw it before. And you're like scared of it. Well, as soon as they put it on, they were fucking scared. So was everyone shopping because, man, I cranked the shit out of that dude. And the store manager didn't keep his word. He didn't let me play my pick. I was supposed to get to play the whole album, just like all the other employees. They didn't make it through fucking 3 songs. So anyway, you told me about your high school. Trying to share my Napalm Death.
It was
public spin that, you know, fucking didn't end well.
Napalm Death was definitely one of the bands that you played to shock the shit out of any normal people, because no one had heard a band that aggressive before. And again, the fact they continue to make music that sounds as angry and full of zest as they do now, it's amazing to me. I admire what they do to such a great degree, and I just love them as a band. So off of Fear, Emptiness, Despair, this is A Plague Rages. Right, so let's just recap the top 10 so far. At number 10, it was Deicide. At number 9, Morbid Angel. At number 8, Nile. At number 7, Broken Hope. At number 6, Dying Fetus. At number 5, Bolt Thrower. At number 4, Obituary. At number 3, Immolation. At number 2, Napalm Death. And a lot of people sent me messages over the course of the series going, I've got a couple of guesses as to who your number 1 band is going to be. There should be no guess. The greatest death metal band ever, arguably the original death metal band, Death.
Yep.
Your thoughts on on Chuck, death, the legacy he left behind. I'm curious, especially, as somebody who kind of, came from the scene that, he was sort of, one of the godfathers of, what did he mean to you as a musician, and what did his legacy mean to you?
Well, before I ever heard Morbid Angel or Carcass or Obituary, I heard Death, Scream Bloody Gore. And at the time, I recall really being into, at the time I wasn't quite even knowledgeable completely what death metal was. I was always searching for heavier and heavier music. And I remember being a huge Dark Angel fan, and of course Slayer, Rain and Blood. That was the shit. And then I was just trying to find heavier and heavier stuff. And then buddy of mine's like, "Here, check this band out, Death." I'm like, "There's a band called Death?" Wow, what? Really? A band called Death? All right, cool. And then, Scream Bloody Gore. And I'm like, holy shit, dude, this is really fucking heavy. The vocals, were not like anything I had heard. You talk about evil sounding bands. You had mentioned Venom and stuff earlier, and Slayer and whatnot. You never heard vocals like that. They weren't what we consider like guttural death metal vocals of today, but they were definitely death metal vocals.
Yeah.
And just when I heard a song like Zombie Ritual or whatever, just that changed me. That riffing style, like Chuck would play notes like like it was a different kind of approach as a guitar player. As a young guitarist hearing that, I'm like, wow, that's fucking cool. And then Leprosy came out, man, goddamn, dude. When I heard Pull the Plug and shit, I'm like, that's fucking awesome. And right around that time, when Leprosy came out, was the first time I saw that perform. They were on tour with Dark Angel, who I again worship. And I had Leprosy, not literally, I'm not falling to pieces or anything. I had Leprosy, Scream Bloody Gore, and I watched Death open for Dark Angel, and I remember distinctly being right in front of Chuck and him going, "Are you fuckers ready for some death metal tonight?" And I'm like, yeah, I never heard anyone even blurt out the word death metal on stage before. And then I was just head over heels for Death ever since. Personally, my favorite album is Spiritual Healing. Love that album. I'm very grateful that I got to meet Chuck numerous times while he was alive, and had the opportunity to play with Death at least one or two times, like in Milwaukee, Wisconsin or something. And I've seen Death shitload of times, which I'm also very grateful for. So definitely influential to me, as a death metal guitar player. And just if you think about how many years have gone by since Chuck died, and the catalog of music he left us with, to this day, without Chuck being around for 2 decades plus or something, they're still one of the greatest fucking death metal bands ever. You know what I mean? That musicianship is like Scream Bloody Gore to whatever their last album was, Final Years. Better musicianship. Constantly pushing himself to be technically proficient, mastered his instrument, and is still delivering just the highest quality music and production. Even the production on the albums got better, but Chuck was really, in my impression is Chuck was a real visionary as to what he wanted to be as a musician and what he wanted Death to be as a band and each album, if you follow me, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And he just fucking nailed it. Anything Chuck did reeked of quality, and that's a good thing. He didn't compromise anything by having stellar production and breaking new ground with riffs, because it always came back to the foundation of death metal. And I just, you know, seeing Death #1 on your list, it makes all the sense in the world. You know,
yeah,
it's pretty cool.
It's one of, I mean, for me, one of the most enduring bands I've ever discovered in my life. I mean, you know, I'd include bands like Metallica and Slayer in there. There've been times where, you know, months, maybe years go by that I'd not listened to a Metallica song, I'd not listened to a Slayer song. A lot of the stuff that I grew up with, there is very, very rarely a week that goes by that I don't listen to something by Death. You know, I've got a couple of default records. Symbolic is one of my favorites. I love The Sound of Perseverance. I love Human. I love Spiritual Healing. I love everything. Those are kind of the default ones, which is why I named them first. But yeah, there is an enduring beauty to Death's music. I think, you know, like what we're talking about, overriding emotions in a band, or at least like an atmosphere or color that comes through. You know, there's darkness in Immolation. There's evil in Deicide. There's badassness in Broken Hope. There's a sincerity in Death's music, and I don't know. I can't think of a better word to describe it. But you know, I never had the opportunity to meet Chuck. But there's a real sincerity and a real honesty in I think what he was singing about and the way that he conveyed that through his music, which I think appeals to me on a level that's you know, that kind of boosts them into that upper echelon of bands that, like, you want to be buried with your Death CDs kind of thing. You know, if there were like if you were only allowed to listen to 5 bands forever, they'd probably be one of the bands that made it onto your list.
Right. Yeah, Jackie, your words are, again, so well said. You know, when you're describing a band musically and what they're founded on, and that's the thing with Chuck. There is a sincerity in everything he ever did, you know, from the first album to the last. And he's professional, and you know, he flew the flag of death metal high early on. And you talk about pioneer of death metal. That's maybe the pioneer of death metal. People always talk about Tony Iommi invented heavy metal. You know, Chuck Schuldiner, I think, invented death metal. Some people I've heard have said, you know, Slayer, Rain and Blood is, you know, like the precursor to death metal. I could see that if it weren't for the vocals, but the vocals were, you know, Tom Araya is not a death metal vocalist. In fact, Slayer, in interviews back in the day, would, you know, make fun of death metal vocals, this Cookie Monster shit. Like Jeff Handy, I listen to these new bands nowadays. You can't even understand what the fuck they're saying. You know, it's like, you know, that's what separates a band like Slayer in 1986 from a band like Death in 1987. The vocals and you know, the tuning and all that. But again, back to my original point I'm trying to make is Chuck Schuldiner to me is the pioneer forefather of this entire genre. I think he's, you want to say someone invented fucking death metal, I think Chuck's up there, you know.
Yeah.
And not too soon after, you had, I mean, Morbid Angel could be up there. I don't know, you know, people considered early Sepultura death metal. I don't really. I think I always thought they were more thrash. But But that Chuck definitely he's the guy who kind of really started the ball rolling, I think.
Yeah. No, I agree, which is, like I said, which is why there couldn't have been any other choice for number one other than Death.
No.
And for me, one of the quintessential Death tracks, this is off the album of the same name, Symbolic.
I don't mean to dwell
Dude, once again, we've nearly cracked the 2-hour mark. Thank you so much for your time.
I went into this saying,
He's got 15 minutes.
I went into this saying, I'm going to tell Jackie, dude, we're doing the top 10. We're in and out in 60 minutes. We're done. I swear to God, I fucking was going to say that to you. But then as soon as I saw your face, I forgot about that. I'm like, hey, there's my brother Jackie, man. How the fuck are you? So,
dude, I was going to say this to you as well, and I don't know whether you have a few years on me, so maybe you'll know it more than I do. As I get older, I get more sentimental.
Oh,
the one thing that I would definitely say, yeah. Well, the one thing I would definitely say, it is so fucking cool for me to see everything that you've achieved and that you've done, and that you've you've kind of built yourself up to. From those days that you and I first met each other, I remember meeting you that Sunday afternoon, and us going, fucking around, just hitting it off, going for Nando's, and then, I know you were at the time. You told me about the kind of rough idea you had for the Armageddon chord, but it wasn't a book yet.
Oh,
and obviously then that came out. Broken Hope came roaring back. You did really, really well with Rabbit Heart, and I saw obviously you won a bunch of awards. It's fucking awesome for me to see that. And thanks, I really hope that when this pandemic nonsense is finally behind us, that I get to come out to Chicago and see you in person. We can finally hang out and hang out outside of the sort of pressurized environment of having 2 hours after a concert or something like that. So,
dude, me too, man. Because I want to taste your barbecue. I want to have you taste the filet mignon that I make.
Oh yeah, no, for sure, mate.
I want to give you a tour of Broken Hope Museum, the Jeff Hanneman room, the fucking the thing.
I was just about to say I want to see your thing collection,
all this shit, and I'm dying for you to get over to the States at some point. Obviously, shit's all fucked up, but we'll get there. I want to do something real quick if you have a minute.
Sure.
Do you have a second? If I can pull this thing up here. All right, check this out. Can you hear? Tell me if you can hear this.
I can hear it's a bit soft. I can hear that.
That's New Broken Hope, bro.
I was just about to say, as soon as I heard the groove, I was like, that's a Jeremy Wagner groove. That sounds fucking cool. That sounds fucking badass. So,
I just wanted to give you a little taste, man. So
yeah.
How old are you?
40.
You're 40, okay. So remember my drummer Mike?
Yeah.
So he likes to remind me that he was born 3 months after Swamp and Gore came out. But he says what you do, because him and I write together.
Yeah.
A lot more, especially since Mutilated and Assimilated, we wrote together. In the past, I'd write riffs by myself and then bring him in, but him and I have been writing together more. But he always says that shit. He's like, "That's a Wagner riff. That's a fucking Wagner riff." So that always makes me happy to hear. At least I got some kind of identity, I guess.
There's not a lot of people that can say that they've got that distinctive a style of riffing, dude. It's something you should embrace.
I do, bro. I do.
Awesome, brother. Thank you very much for your time. We'll keep in touch for sure. And like I said, hopefully, fingers crossed, 2021 we'll do the annual Wagner appearance on Into the Necrosphere we'll do live and in person.
Dude, absolutely. Oh, and I didn't get to say this on your show, but let me tell you this before you get off with me. I just want to thank you for having me on your year-end Into the Necrosphere thing with the top 10 and have me part of it. So,
no, thank you very much.
I really appreciate it. Thanks, Jack.
No, dude. You're the show is one of your namesakes. This is not the official like 2020 year end. This is like the death metal countdown.
I mean, that's what I meant. Yeah, the death metal.
Yeah. The 2020 we'll do the next couple of episodes, but no, man, it'll be a
top 10.
It'll be an institution without a doubt. Like I said, the show wasn't named after a Broken Hope song for no reason. So
appreciate it, man. Much appreciated.
All right, brother. Take care of yourself, and all the best to your wife and to your stepson as well.
You too, man.
Tell Tyler I miss those Facebook streams that he used to put up of himself doing homework and fucking driving. All right, dude. Take care of yourself.
You too, Jackie. Great seeing you, man.
Same here, man.
Take care. Bye-bye.
There you go, my final edition of my 50 favorite death metal bands countdown. I hope you guys have enjoyed the series, and I hope you guys enjoyed the conversation that I had with Jeremy as much as I enjoyed being part of it. He will definitely be on the show at least once a year. And like I said at the top of the show, considering the fact that, one of his songs was responsible for spawning this wonderful podcast's name, I think it's only fair. But great catching up with him and great seeing how well he's doing, and looking forward to another Broken Hope record. Next week, I've got Nick Sagias from Tribe of Pazuzu on. I will also review the new Ecclesiastes and the new Inquisition. One of those I really enjoy. Another is a gross disappointment. So I'll leave it up to you to mull over what that could be. But in the meantime, whatever you're doing, wherever you are, I hope you're safe and healthy. From Mean Street Studios, I'm wishing all of you bad motherfuckers a fond farewell.